Hey everybody, it's Michael from Wahoo Comics here with another Character Keys video where I talk about 5 keys of a certain character that I love and am investing in at 5 different price levels. So that if you also love this character and want to invest in them, then you can find a book to hunt for within your budget. Now, before we get into today's video, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, of course, I'd appreciate if you would consider doing so. All right, so today we are going to be talking about Wonder Man. And as you may have seen in the news this week, Disney has announced that they're going to start producing a Wonder Man show for Disney+. So if you love this character, now is the time to start hunting for these keys because they're going to start creeping up over the next 2 or 3 years while we wait for that show to come out. Now, if you shop mostly on eBay, I'd hold off for a few months because prices there have spiked because there's so much interest, and they'll come back down as the news fades away and people move on to the next thing. But you could still probably find these books at an LCS or a flea market at a reasonable price right now. But if you like them, again, now is the time to start looking for them. So to start off, if you have $5 to spend, I would be looking for a copy of Wonder Man #1, which is his first solo title. As I've talked about many times, once buyers start getting priced out of the first appearances of characters, they often turn to the first solo title or first solo series as the next book that they want to pick up. And then, of course, as collectors start buying those books, the value of those books go up. As demand goes up, the value goes up. And this book's also kind of a neat one to pick up just because it contains the origin of Wonder Man, a retelling of it. So if you want to know more about the character, it's a cool one to get. And it also contains a cool Bill Sienkiewicz, I guess it's a painted cover, at least looks that way. I'm a big fan of Bill Sienkiewicz art, and so a great cover to buy. Now, if I had $10, I would buy a copy of Marvel Premiere number 55, and this contains the first solo story of Wonder Man. So the first key I mentioned is his first solo title, the first Wonder Man book. But this is kind of similar, but it's not an actual Wonder Man book. It's a Marvel Premiere book. So even though Wonder Man is clearly displayed, his name is clearly displayed on the title, it's not considered his first solo book. But it is his first solo story, so I think it still holds a lot of interest to collectors and investors. And since it's older, of course, than his first solo book, that's why this book is a little more valuable even right now. All right, now we're going to jump in price a little bit. And if I had $50 to spend, I'd be looking at a mid-grade copy of Avengers number 58 to buy. Now, this contains the second appearance of Wonder Man. But it's kind of interesting because it's not a traditional second appearance, but it's just him in flashback. Because what happens in his first appearance is that he actually dies in Avengers number 9, and I'm going to get to that book in a little bit. But what we find out in this series is that Hank Pym actually recorded his brain patterns. I don't know if it's before he was died or as he was dying, but he captured his brain patterns. And as we read through the comics, we find out Hank Pym used his own brain patterns to create Ultron. Well, Ultron then takes on the kind of persona of Hank Pym and wants to create his own robot. And so he creates the Vision. And so he's trying to think, well, what brain patterns am I going to use for the Vision? Well, he finds these that belong to Wonder Man. And so he makes Vision's mind out of Wonder Man's mind. And this becomes a really interesting plot line in the comic books because later, of course, Wonder Man gets resurrected. That's why we still have Wonder Man. He gets resurrected, but then it creates all these interesting philosophical questions about identity. And this idea of identity was explored some in the WandaVision show when you had the 2 visions. Well, that same question is explored in the dynamic between Wonder Man and Vision. Because it's like, well, who is Vision a real person himself, or does he just a copy of Wonder Man? And it becomes even more fascinating because, of course, the Vision marries Scarlet Witch. And so when Wonder Man resurrects, he sees this and he realizes, and of course Vision is attracted to Scarlet Witch because he has Wonder Man's brain, and this means, of course, Wonder Man is attracted to Scarlet Witch. And so Wonder Man's really jealous. He falls in love with Scarlet Witch, but he can't have her because Vision has her. But he's like, but those are really my brains. The ones that love you are really my brains. And you love the Vision, you love his brain, but it's really because you love my brain. And so it creates this really interesting love triangle. And I don't know where the MCU is going to go with Wonder Man, but I would love to see this story played out in the MCU on some level. It's so complex, I don't know if it will be, but I hope so. Well, because of this kind of these shared brain patterns, Wonder Man refers to Vision as his brother. Now, that brings me to the next key, which is a really interesting key. I'm putting it in this Wonder Man character key series, but Wonder Man is actually not in this book. So why is it a Wonder Man book? Well, it's Avengers number 52, and this contains the first appearance of Wonder Man's brother, Eric Williams. And what we find out is that as the comics go on, Eric and Simon, Simon Williams is Wonder Man, were brothers, and Simon was the favored brother, the one his parents loved. And so Eric grows up jealous of Simon, and he ends up becoming kind of a rebellious kid and gets in a lot of trouble, gets associated with the mob and all these kinds of things. While at the same time, Simon inherits his father's technology company. And that Williams International is basically a rival to Stark Industries, of course, Iron Man's company. And eventually Stark puts Williams out of business. And as he's going out of business, Simon is getting really upset about this. And so he turns to Eric and his mob connections to see if there's a way that he can get out of this predicament and save the company. Well, he ends up embezzling money from the company to pay off the mob. And then he's later caught doing that, and so he's sent to prison. And this is kind of how his first appearance opens up, and I'll mention that in just a minute, but he's sent to prison, and the Masters of Evil come to him and get him out in exchange for his help. And so he starts off as a bad guy, but then as he's fighting the Avengers in his first appearance, he realizes the error of his ways, turns on the Masters of Evil, helps the Avengers, but dies in the process. Well, Eric Williams, even though he was always jealous of Simon, gets angry at the Avengers, blames them, understandably, for his brother's death. And so he turns to Ultron. Again, there's this really just interesting family dynamic here. Brothers and fathers and all this kind of stuff. And Ultron gives him this scythe, which then, sci-fi, especially in the Silver Age, is interesting. This scythe can shoot coma rays, and so if you get hit with the ray, you just drop into a coma for some mysterious reason. And eventually gets other powers, like it becomes like this helicopter, where you can just, cut you up, and obviously it's just a regular, cutter. And eventually even gets like death touch powers, where if you touch, you just die. Really interesting. But Avengers 52 is his first appearance. And I would be buying it because I really hope, part of this is just my hope, but I really want him to be in the Wonder Man show as the big bad. All right, well, that brings me to the Grail. The Grail, of course, is Avengers number 9, the first appearance of Wonder Man. And as I mentioned, he starts off this book as a bad guy. And so what the Masters of Evil do, they convince him to infiltrate the Avengers, to pretend to be a good guy. And once he infiltrates the Avengers, he actually joins them, then he turns on them, but then he realizes that was a mistake and turns on the Masters of Evil, and again, because of that, sacrifices his life to save the Avengers. And so that is the book to get, and the Grail book for Wonder Man. Now, as I always do in this series, at the end I show off one of these keys that I have picked up recently. And so which one did I get? Well, fortunately, it was the Grail, Avengers number 9. And I'm glad I picked it up just a couple of weeks ago, because of course this book is going to be really rising in value in the coming weeks and months ahead. But it's kind of bittersweet, because if you saw a video I put out a few months ago, I actually already bought a lower grade copy of this, I bought several Avengers keys, and the guy I bought them from had maybe a 2.0, maybe a 3.0 version of this. So what I often try to do, if I can find even a low-grade copy of a Grail at a good price, I'll buy it then, knowing that if I later stumble onto a higher grade copy at a good deal, I can always sell the lower grade copy. And so that's what I did. I found someone selling this copy. It's probably about a 4.0, and maybe a clean and press, maybe get a 5.0. I wasn't planning on submitting it to CGC, but I certainly am now that we have this Wonder Man show coming on. And it's this cool, obviously, Wonder Man cover. But the bittersweet point comes in the fact that because I bought this, I did sell the lower grade copy, and I got a good price on it, but I sold it just a week ago. Just a week ago. So if I hadn't have done that, then I would certainly be able to make a little more on it now. But it cuts both ways, because again, I got this higher grade copy at a better price than I probably would be able to do now. So very cool book. If you get the chance, pick it up. So that brings me to an end of this video. I'd like to hear from you in the comments though. What characters are you hoping that are introduced in the Wonder Man series? Of course, like I said, I would love to see the Grim Reaper make an appearance there and be the big bad. But who would you like to see, or who would you like to see come back, like Vision or Scarlet Witch? Do you want to see them there, or who? Of course, again, if you haven't subscribed, it'd be awesome if you do so. I hope you enjoyed the video. I enjoyed making it, and look forward to the next one.